Hello everyone and welcome back to the Greenfoot tutorial series. Now this isn't going to be a continuation on how to make the RPG, but instead it's going to be a little bit of code theory on how some of the things in this program work. So you'll need to understand the parts 1 and 2 of the RPG series, so go ahead and watch those if you haven't yet, and they'll be helpful to understanding this video. So right now, last time we created this little guy who could shoot and move around. It looks pretty cool so far. It's like a little mini RPG we have. And one of the things I wanted to discuss is how this turn towards work. Right now, how the bullets work is that it's moving towards the mouse whenever I click. And to understand how most of the time, instead of just doing things, you're going to have to understand how they work in order to work on future projects. Because just doing things, doing whatever I say, and not really understanding them isn't really learning. You're just basically copying me. But by actually telling you how this works, you're going to get a lot better of idea how code works in general, and you'll be able to you'll have a lot more advanced thinking, and you'll be able to create a lot cooler stuff with code. So I'm going to show you right now how exactly this turn towards works. So let's go ahead and imagine that right now I've just clicked right over here. Now in order, what's going on is this bullet that spawns right here, which is originally facing straight to the right, it's going to turn a certain number of degrees so that now it faces the mouse over here. And the cool thing is, how does it know how much degrees it has to turn? That's what we're going to go over today. There's actually a couple trigonometry involved in this, but don't worry, you don't have to be an expert in trigonometry or really know much about it. I'm just going to explain how it works. So what happens is, imagine a triangle right here. So the base of this triangle basically be from here and straight out a line going from wherever the mouse is. So from here to here, this would be the base. And the height would be from the player to the mouse downward. So this would be the height right here. And this hypotenuse is basically the straight line between the player and the mouse. Now the angle the number of degrees, the angle that the bullet turns, is basically this angle right here, right in this triangle. And so in order to solve forget this angle, which we'll call theta, which is the basically basic angle name in trigonometry, all you have to do is just use tan. You just have to find the tan, and basically you'll have the angle. And let me go ahead and open up a little diagram that explains how this works. So now I have a little picture over here. So this is a player, and by default we already have his x1 and y1 coordinates, get x and get y. We also have the mouse's coordinates, which we'll call x2 and y2, and they're given to us with the mouse info function. And now we can easily find these two sides. This is just x2 minus x1, and you'll get this. And this height right here is y2 minus y1, and you'll get this height right here. Now to get this angle, all you have to do is say tan of theta is equal to the height over the base. It's as simple as that. That's a known trigonometric function. Tan of theta is equal to this over this. And normally what you would want to do is you would use some methods in Java like math.tan, and you'd solve to get, you'd say math.tan of theta is equal to this, and then you do a couple of functions to solve for theta. There's actually a lot easier way called math.atan2, which is a built-in function in Java. And what it does is it takes any two height, it takes a height and a width, and it returns the angle that is formed from the triangle of those two sides. Now, what it returns is, it returns a value in radians of this angle over here. Now, radians, if you don't know what that is, it's basically like, let's take in temperature, Fahrenheit and Celsius. Now, those both mean the same thing. They're both the temperature, but they're two different ways of saying it. Now, the same thing with here. Degrees and radians are two different ways to just say angles. Degrees is the usual method that we use in everyday life. That's what we have to use here, because degrees is what Greenfoot recognizes. So basically, this will return the radian value, and all the turn towards method is doing is, it takes the mouse click and it takes basically these two heights, it plugs it into math.atan2, and then there's another math method called math.2degrees. This converts radians to degrees, and it does that, and it works just fine. And that's basically what the turn to function is. And to demonstrate this, I'm going to go ahead and, instead of having this thing where we say mouse info and then we say just turn towards, I'm going to do it the long way to show you how this actually works. So we have this, and all we have to do is we say, and sorry, another thing with math.atan is, when I do math.atan, let's say to 4, now it's going to say, sorry, math.atan2. So what we have to do here is, we have to plug in the mouse dot get x and subtract it. Sorry, mouse dot get y, because you use the y value first. So y2 minus y1, which is mouse dot get y minus get y of the actual player. And here, x2 minus x1, mouse dot get x minus get y. Let's go ahead and assign something to this. I'll say int, you'll understand why I'm doing this later, but int temp is equal to this. When I compile this, actually see here that it's doing it from a double to an int. You have to actually math.atan2 actually returns a double value, which is basically a decimal value, and so when you initialize this, you have to use double instead of the usual int. Now after that, we're going to say temp equals temp dot, sorry, math dot 2 degrees. Now this is really simple. If you remember, this one returns the radian, so we want to convert it to degrees, so we just say math dot 2 degrees temp. And see that this is working so far. Yep, this is working just fine. Now, in order to now let me tell you something. So when you turn, or when you move, or pretty much do anything with a Greenfoot function, they all take in integers. So if I said, this is going to be something random, but we want to turn, right? So I would say turn temp. Now, if you remember, temp is still a double. So when you do this, get here incompatible types, because turn takes in an integer. Everything in Greenfoot takes an integer, which is also another really annoying part, because as usual, most game creation systems use doubles, because most of the time you're going to be dealing with decimals. So instead of this, we're going to actually convert it into an integer. Now this is actually pretty simple. It's through a method called casting. Now what we do in casting is, first we declare the type you want it to turn into, which is an integer. Then we say the new variable you want to put it into, which is ing. That's why here I use temp for temporary, and here ing for angle, which is the real angle we'll use. Now we set it equal to, in brackets, again what you wanted to convert it to, then the actual variable that you are converting. Now, if I say turn angle, yes, forgot semicolon, it will work because it's been converted into an integer. Now, after we have this, all I have to do is make the object of bullet turn in degrees. Let's go ahead and do this. This should work just fine. Yep, and you see here it works just as good as the turn towards function. And this is just basically a bit of theory so you can get used to and realize how things actually work. And that's pretty much it. Simple as that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll probably actually be doing a couple more theory videos as well, because you don't just need to know code, you also need to know the theory behind it to be able to create cool new projects. So if you like this video, go ahead and leave a like below. If you have any suggestions for me for a new tutorial I should do, or have any questions, leave a comment below. And subscribe if you want to be updated on tutorials from all sorts of different stuff: GameMaker, Unity, Java, Greenfoot. I'll be doing all of those. So next up will be the actual part 3 of the RPG. Stay tuned for that, and see ya.